Here's an idea I found in a book one day in a library. It was meant for short stories and novels, but it works really well with just texts in the classroom, and especially, again, boring texts that you have to read, and including academic texts. I've done it many times now. It's a reading circle. It's a variation, I suppose, on jigsaw readings. You put students in groups of 4 or 5, and everybody gets a different role. Here are the roles. The first person is a discussion leader. You give them a quick role description, and that they have to write 5 questions about the text that they are reading. 5 questions of general understanding, not questions like how old is so and so and how much does this cost. More for general understanding. So why and how questions are usually better here. Then there is a summarizer. So the second person in the group has to summarize the text in a few bullet points. There is a word master. That person picks out 5 words that are probably unknown and are important to understand the text. And they look them up and get an explanation for these words. This job I quite like. The connector connects the text, the content of the text, to their own life. So how is this relevant to their life? What works? What doesn't work? Is this the same in their life? And whatever. It's a very broad sort of. Any kind of connection is fine. And finally, if you have 5 in a group and the text is relevant for this, you could have a culture collector. Is somebody who looks at the culture of the text and then relates it to their own culture. So they might be reading a text about something in the UK, and then about relationships, for example, and then relate it to the way they have relationships in their own culture. What's okay and what's not okay, etc. Doesn't work for all texts. At the end of it, the discussion leader will lead the group, and he or she will ask the questions first, then gives the summarizer and the word master and the connector and the culture collector a couple of minutes to share what they have found in the text. In other words, these 4 or 5 people are looking at this text from a different perspective and then share their understanding of the text. I found the students get very involved even if the text is extremely boring, and again they seem to comprehend a lot of the text at the end and find it kind of an enriching experience of how you can look at the text from different angles. Here is the reference. That's where these role descriptions come from. I have updated them or changed them a little bit for an ESL classroom, and if you would like a copy of the descriptions, just email me and I'll send them out to you. The students actually get a copy of these each, and they write their findings on a piece of paper before they share it with the group. There's no doubt that reading strategies are really important, especially for EFL learners. And especially for students that are not very used to reading. So there are a number of different ones. I usually restrict myself to 5 that I teach my students. And then I'll show you how you can get them to practice. So the first one is predicting. That comes up in a lot of textbooks nowadays. So students look at the text, at the headline, at the picture, and then predict what they're going to read in the text. For some reason, if our minds predict something, we kind of compare it to what they're reading, and it helps us to understand the text better. Secondly, asking questions and confirming the answer. So it's something we do as experienced readers. We will start reading a newspaper article, for example, and you're thinking, well, I wonder why this guy did that, or where was his wife at the time, or how did this end up? And you constantly got questions running through your mind while you're reading something. Using context is of course important. When students come across words that they don't know, that they try to pick the meaning from the context. I don't think it's an easy skill actually. Often it's not clear what the meaning of a word is, because often there are no clues in the context really. So, but it's still something that they have to learn to do. Checking comprehension by paraphrasing is a good skill for a second language learner. So they start to put things in their own words. They read something and they say, oh, so this means that, blah, 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 and they put it into simpler English for themselves. Really useful skill. And finally, summarizing. Again, you're kind of speaking to yourself, saying, okay, so what happened here is da-da-dum, and you put it in a few bullet points for yourself. So I'm going to show you how I ask my students to practice these skills. If you really want to find out what your students' reading ability is like, screencasting is a brilliant little tool. It's what I'm doing right now actually. I'm recording what is on my computer screen with a voiceover or even a talking head like this. The students won't need a talking head. The students just need the screen where they put their text up. They read it aloud to you using the strategies you showed them. So the predicting, the asking questions and finding answers to their questions, the summarizing, etc. You can really find out when you listen to that whether they understand the text or not. So they make a screencast. You show them how to use it. There are other little video clips on my YouTube channel to show you how to do it. It's super simple technology. Even I can understand it. And then they hand in the screencast to you on a flash drive, or they put it on Edmodo or whatever you use, and you can then listen to that and score them. I used to use it as an assessment actually. Now, to help them, you actually give them an example of this. And here's one. There's a screencast that I made about a reading on Vincent van Gogh. But that text might be too difficult. There's a couple more on my YouTube channel that are at lower levels. Or you can make one yourself, of course. It's quick. So look at that example of a screencast with you using these reading strategies, and then they make one and they hand it in to you. Okay, we've come to the end. I hope you found this useful. If you have any comments or questions, or you want some of those worksheets for the reading circles or explanations of the other activities, don't hesitate to contact me. My email address is there, luc.zimmerman with double N at the end, @yahoo.com.au. I hope to see you again.